Welcome back to the OpenAI Developer Certification course. In this lesson, we'll add in our OpenAI API and organizational keys securely into our project and make our first OpenAI API call. Remember, to make any API calls into the OpenAI APIs, you must include your OpenAI API key and organization ID. Therefore, we must include this information in our project, but that does not mean we need to commit our sensitive information to our GitHub repo. Nor does it mean we need to have this information on any other computer other than our own. And we'll first set up our project with this security-focused mindset. We will start this lesson by discussing the .env file and its importance in managing environment variables for your TypeScript project, specifically for using the OpenAI API. A .env file is a simple text file that contains key value pairs and is normally ignored from your Git commits and is therefore often used for the storage of environment variables and other sensitive data used in your code. The .env file allows us to store variables which are needed in your code, but allows us to use sensitive values without hard-coding it directly into our code. This approach enhances security and makes your application more flexible and easier to manage. Using a .env file helps you 1. Keep sensitive information secure. By storing API keys, database credentials, and other sensitive data in a .env file, you keep them out of your source code. 2. Simplify environment management. You can easily switch between different environments, development, staging, and production, by using different .env files. 3. Improve code maintainability. Keeping configurations separate from your codebase makes your code cleaner and easier to manage. Let's walk through the steps to create a .env file in our TypeScript project, as we'll use this file to store the OpenAI API key and organization ID. First, in your project directory, create a new file and name it .env. We'll use the touch command in our example, but you can create the file any way you choose. Just be certain to place it in the parent directory of your project, otherwise you'll likely run into issues. Next, open the .env file and add the following lines to store your OpenAI organization ID and API key. OpenAI API key equals sk-abc123. Organization ID equals org-abc123. Replace these example values with your actual API key and organization ID. Now, to use the variables in your TypeScript project, you'll need to install the .env node package using npm. Here, you'll need to open the terminal in VS Code and run npm install .env. Now we need to import the .env package into our code, initialize the package, and retrieve our OpenAI API key and organization ID from our .env file. Do this by adding the following code into the main.ts file. First, import the .env package into your code. Next, initialize .env with the config function call. And now we'll assign our application variables to the values from the .env file. Here, it's important to know that you can access the variables from the .env file by preceding your protected variables names with process.env. So we assign our variables as follows. API key equals process.env.OpenAI API key. Org ID equals process.env.organization ID. Next, log your variables to the console using the console log command. Now, compile and run your app to verify that you have successfully retrieved your OpenAI API key and organization ID. Once you have verified that your variables are being retrieved correctly, you can now make calls to the OpenAI API, which we'll do next. Okay, let's walk through the necessary steps to set up our project to make a basic call to the OpenAI Chat Completion API. The steps we'll follow are: install the OpenAI NPM package, import the OpenAI package into your code, initialize the OpenAI API object, make a basic chat completion API call. Let's begin. 1. Install and import the OpenAI NPM package. First, we need to install the OpenAI NPM package. This is done with the following command: npm install OpenAI. Now you'll open your main.ts file and add the following line of code: import OpenAI from OpenAI. Notice the curly brackets around OpenAI. Also notice that we placed this import statement at the top of our main.ts file, along with the .env import statement. 2. Initialize the OpenAI API object. Next, we need to initialize the OpenAI API module before we can make any calls to the API. We will initialize the OpenAI API module with our API and organization variables we created earlier. To do this, add the following code to your main.ts file, const OpenAI equals new OpenAI. Next, add in the API key parameter, API key : API key. Then add in organization parameter, organization : org ID. Notice the API key and org ID are part of a JSON object, which is the parameter passed into the OpenAI constructor. You have now imported and initialized all you need for every call you'll make to the OpenAI API. Now, we'll set up the function call, which actually makes the call to the Chat Completion API. 3. Make a basic call to the Chat Completion API. Here, we will use a simple LLM prompt to generate a response from the AI. Add the following async function to your main.ts file. Async function main. Note this must be an async function. In this function, we will call the OpenAI Chat Completion API with a basic prompt. Add the following code: const response equals await OpenAI.chat.completions.create model : and the latest OpenAI model of your choice. This is followed by a messages array which takes JSON role objects. We will only add in a single user role JSON object to hold our prompt. Our prompt is as follows: messages, open square bracket, open curly brace, role, user, content, hello, this is my first OpenAI API call, close curly brace, close square bracket, close paren. Then, log the response to the terminal using the console.log command. Finally, we simply call our main function from within our main.ts file. Now, you can compile and run your application to see the AI's response to your prompt. That concludes our introduction to setting up your project and our initial look at calling the OpenAI API. Stay tuned as we dive deep into the full capabilities of the OpenAI's Chat Completion API in the next section of lessons.